today's video, I'm going to go over a basic setup of a guitar or bass, and this all will apply to a bass, just with slightly different measurements on some of the things we're going to do. The three things we're going to cover is neck relief, the truss rod adjustment, then action, and then finally intonation. And you're going to want to do those in that order. This is something that may come up over time if you change the string gauge, and also when you purchase a new guitar. The neck relief you should check at least once a year. That can change with seasons, changes in humidity, and anytime you purchase a guitar, chances are it's moved from a different part of the United States and the climate's different, so you'll have to check it. The reason why I'm doing this video is if you saw my other one on how to put strings on, I actually got a new set of strings. I got the new Earning Ball coated. I really like them. I've only had them on for a day. We'll see how they go long term, but so far I really like them. So as a general rule, anytime you change the type of strings you have on a guitar, you're going to have to set it up. For a long time I took it to a shop to set it up, which was about $35, and after a few years of doing that I decided to go ahead and give it a try myself. So what you're going to need to do a basic setup on a guitar: precision screwdriver, a good tuner, capo, pick, and bass players, even if you use only fingerstyle, you should use a pick when you're doing some of these settings. A precision ruler, generally they'll be metal, and you'll want one that goes down to a 1/64 of an inch. Filler gauge, this is one I got at Sears. It was about $5 or $6. They're generally cheap. You can get one in Harbor Freight for about $2. And this is just a Craftsman 40811. I really like this model. It has the brass ones as well. So to get started, I'm going to do this setup here, like I said, on my SG because I got new strings for it. So the first thing you want to generally check, of course, you want to make sure the guitar is in tune before you do any of these, which I did already. I was playing it for a little bit. You want to put the capo first fret. You want to get your filler gauge. What we're going to check here is the relief in your neck. Now I want to just let you know, as a pre-warning here, you want to be very careful when you're doing this, because you can damage your guitar if you do this incorrectly, or if you break your truss rod. So anytime you're making a truss rod adjustment, which is on a Gibson it's up on top, Fender it varies, usually on the bottom for the bass, you'll want to make sure you can turn the nut, or if you have a Fender or the Allen wrench. If not, take it to a shop. If it's just too stiff to make any adjustment at all, take it to a shop. If you don't feel comfortable after this, you can still see how to check it to see if it needs done, but if you don't feel comfortable, take this part to the shop. The other adjustments, I really recommend you do those yourself, because you need to learn how to do them, and also with the action, it's a matter of preference, so you should learn how to set the action up yourself. To move on, you want to put a capo on the first fret, and then this varies from recommendations. Some will say right where the neck meets the body of the guitar. Fender just generally says use the last fret. That's usually what I do. It makes it simple. There's not much difference between using where the neck meets the body of the guitar or just using the last fret. And then for bass and guitar, this is going to all apply, except there will be slightly different measurements. Now on guitar, you're going to use your filler gauge .010, and what you're going to do is go ahead and fret last fret, and then at the 8th fret you're just going to slide the filler gauge in real lightly, and you got to do it level, parallel with the fret, and you want to see if it bumps up, which this one is slightly bumping up. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this truss rod just a little bit. Now, like I said, this procedure is going to be identical for a bass, except the measurement's going to be slightly different. It's going to be 0.015, and this can vary a little bit, but this will apply to all manufacturers. Some will set theirs base to 0.020, some will set their guitars 0.012, 0.009. They'll differ a little bit, but these are just general settings that have worked for me. I've tried quite a few. These are the ones that I like. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the truss rod and show you how I do that. Okay, I'm back. I went ahead and took the cover off here, and I'm going to go ahead and make the truss rod adjustment. Now, a couple things to note. First of all, you never want to make more than a quarter turn a day. It does take about a day for the adjustment to completely set in. So even if you make a quarter turn and it's not enough, you still need to allow time for the neck to make the complete adjustment. So never turn it more than a quarter turn. Like I said earlier, if you can't turn it, take it to a shop. I can't stress it enough, if you break the truss rod, damage it, you're pretty much going to destroy your guitar. So if you don't feel comfortable, you can take it in. It's not a hard adjustment to make, and if it moves, as long as you stick to a quarter turn, there's not much chance you can do a damage, but I just want to do a warning. How I make the truss rod adjustment is I'll put it on the floor like this. I brace the guitar between my feet, and if I'm going to tighten the truss rod, while I'm bracing the guitar, I will push in a little bit on the neck with my knee to just make it a little easier to turn. So you take a little bit of pressure off. Now there's 200 pounds of pressure on the neck with these strings, and you do not want to make this adjustment without the strings being in tune. You want to make sure the strings are in tune whenever you make this adjustment. You don't want to do this with the strings off the neck. So I'll go ahead and I don't have to apply any pressure since I'm just going to loosen it. Alright, that's adjusted now. I'm going to give that a day, like I said, to let it sit. And also, if you bought a new guitar, let it sit in your house for a few weeks before you make this adjustment. Let the humidity difference, the temperature change, and allow the neck to adjust to your climate. Now that I made the truss rod adjustment, I'm going to have to tune the guitar back up. So I'm going to go ahead and tune that up, and I'll be right back. Okay, I went ahead and tuned up after the adjustment, so let's see what we got here. Once again, you'll put the capo, first fret. You want to get out your filler gauge. For the guitar, I'm using 0.010. Fret the last fret, and go ahead and slide it in on the 8th. It's just about perfect there. And of course, like I said, I'll have to check it tomorrow. The neck will more than likely set a little bit, and that'll be fine because it is just still touching just a hair, but like I said, I want to make as small adjustments as I can. Now that you've got the correct relief on your neck, and that may take a few days, but once you establish that it's pretty close to perfect, then next what you want to do is adjust your action. Now to adjust your action, this is something you can certainly do at home. You're not going to hurt your guitar by adjusting your action, and just personal preference, how you play. You might play real hard, you might play real light, and for that reason is why I suggest that everyone should learn how to make this adjustment. Now on a fixed bridge like a Gibson, this is a real simple adjustment. You can just turn the adjustment on each side, and it will make all the middle strings to the appropriate height. So on a Gibson, all you have to do is just measure your bottom E and your high E. What I use for my height, and it also so happens to be Gibson's factory setting, and I never knew that. I actually played Fenders before I had this Gibson, and I have always just used this height. It's worked real well with me. Is 5/64 of an inch on the 12th fret, and you're going to want to measure from the fret up to the bottom of the string, and it should be close to 5/64, and then on your high string 3/64. And then now if you have a Fender and you have saddles, you'll have to adjust each saddle individually to make that slope from 5/64 down to 3/64. But if you have a Gibson, you won't have to do that. You just adjust your bass and your high E, your low E and your high E, and the rest would fall in place. And I also use the same height for both my basses and guitars, because I play light on bass and a little harder on guitar. Now, the last setting we're going to do here is the intonation. What your intonation does is adjust the correct tone for each fret. You'll adjust it on your 12th fret, and then each fret should be correct then. If your intonation is out, you could have your string in tune, but then when you fret on, say, the 7th fret, it could be out of tune. This can be a little tricky, and it takes some time to get used to, because if you push too hard on the string, you can make it go sharp, and if you're not pushing hard enough, it could be slightly flat. So this is best done holding the guitar like I am here, not done on a table or anything, because you want to fret it like you usually would fret that note. Okay, we're going to go ahead and adjust the intonation here. What you're going to want to do is hit the open string and ensure it's in perfect tune. My E's a little flat there. Okay, that's pretty good. And then you'll just want to fret it on this 12th fret like you would normally playing a note, which it's pretty good there. You're never going to get it quite perfect because, like I said, if you push hard, it's going to go sharp, and if you don't push light enough, it'll be a little flat. You just want to get it just like you normally would play, which that's about correct. So I'm going to go through, do each note. A's in tune, A's right on, B's in tune, B's on, G's a little flat here, okay, G's right on, B's right on, okay, the E's a little sharp. So what you're going to take, on a Gibson, you're going to use a straight edge. On a Fender, it's a Phillips. And all I'm going to do is make the adjustment right down here. And what you want to do, if it's sharp, you want to move it away from the fretboard, and if it's flat, you want to move it towards. So what I'm going to do, and you want to make small adjustments, probably approximately about an 1/8 inch. So what I'm going to do is, since this was sharp, I'm going to pull it down towards the bridge a little bit. Okay? And then you'll have to retune after you make that adjustment. And bass players, this applies to bass too, but you'll want to use a pick. It makes it a lot easier even if you don't play with a pick. Okay, now the entire string is a little short. Okay. Now that seems to be pretty close there. Okay, and that wraps up a basic setup of a guitar. Like I said, you want to do this with new guitars. You want to do this anytime you change the string gauge, and also just periodically, maybe once a year, especially the neck relief. Once you get the action set up and the intonation, if you don't change the string gauge, you shouldn't have to check that, but once a year you should check the truss rod. And like I said again, the truss rod, although easy, if you can't move it, if you can't make the adjustment, take it to a shop, because you can do a lot of damage, if not completely destroy your guitar by doing it incorrectly. And if you can move it, you want to do small quarter turns or less, and then give it a day for the neck to set. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. And I will have all this information on my blog with the exact measurements and the tools I used, and do a little article so you'll have reference.